the bloodthirsty queen who ruled with fear, fire, and death. In the lush, isolated kingdom of Madagascar, surrounded by the warm, blue waters of the Indian Ocean, a queen once ruled whose name would become synonymous with terror. Her reign was marked not by elegance or diplomacy, but by blood, fire, and unrelenting cruelty. She was Queen Ranavalona I, and for over 30 years in the 19th century, she turned her island kingdom into a nightmare of fear and fanaticism. Born around 1778, Ranavalona was not born into power, but into obscurity. Her father was a commoner who gained royal favour after warning the king of a plot against his life. In gratitude, the king adopted the girl into the royal household and later married her to his son, the future King Radamatama. However, the marriage was loveless. Radama kept 12 wives, and Ramavo was never his favourite. Worse, he had executed several of her close relatives, planting seeds of deep resentment that would one day blossom into bloody vengeance. When Radama died, the rightful heir was his nephew, Rakotobe. Ramavo acted swiftly and brutally. Before the king's death was publicly known, she mobilized soldiers from her hometown, seized the palace, and declared herself queen. Those who supported the traditional line of succession faced a grim choice: accept Ranavalona or die. Within hours, she crushed all opposition. Rakotobe and his parents were eliminated, and few royals survived the wave of executions. Citizens trembled as nobles scrambled to adapt to a new reality. A woman of peasant origin now sat on the throne, defying sacred traditions. If her rise was bloody, what followed would turn Madagascar into a slaughterhouse. From the very start of her reign, Ranavalona sought to purge her kingdom of all foreign influence. European missionaries, traders, and diplomats had been welcomed under her late husband. Ranavalona reversed it all. She banned Christianity, outlawed foreign teachings, and brutally punished those who dared defy her orders. Missionaries were expelled, converts were tortured, public executions became commonplace. One of her most feared punishments was the tangena ordeal. Suspects were forced to drink poison from the tangena nut, along with 3 pieces of chicken skin. If they vomited all 3 pieces, they were deemed innocent. If not, they died in agony. Between 5,000 and 10,000 people died this way every year. Even corpses were subjected to tangena. The dead couldn't vomit, thus proving their guilt and allowing the crown to seize their assets. While tangena was part of Malagasy tradition, under Ranavalona, it became an instrument of mass terror. Its preparation was ritualistic. Panosandri priests chanted while grinding the toxic nuts, and victims were starved for 24 hours beforehand. One famous victim was Andrea Mihoja, a high-ranking officer and Ranavalona's former lover, and possibly the father of her child. When linked romantically to another woman, she demanded he take the tangena. He refused, choosing a quick death instead, calmly instructing the executioner where to thrust the spear into his neck. Tens of thousands perished during her reign through this practice alone. Ranavalona's cruelty wasn't limited to her own people, however. When France attempted an invasion in 1849, her troops not only repelled them but captured 21 European soldiers and beheaded them. Their heads were mounted on stakes along the coast as a bloody warning, an event that further fueled her belief in her divine power and amplified her megalomania. As her reign continued, Ranavalona became even more erratic. The Fanompoana system of forced labour in place of taxes expanded dramatically. Peasants were drafted as soldiers, porters, or labourers on endless projects, many starving far from home. Some were forced to carry the queen on stretchers for miles, only to be left to die when no longer needed. Whole villages were conscripted with little notice, and those who refused saw their homes burned with their families inside. Workers didn't know if they'd be gone for days or years, receiving no pay, food or shelter. Pregnant women laboured until giving birth, often unattended. Deaths were so common that corpses lined the roads. One infamous project was her summer palace in the mountains. Over 50,000 workers hauled massive stones for kilometres without tools. Around 10,000 died over 2 years. When informed of the death toll, Ranavalona allegedly replied, "Stone and lime mix better with blood. The palace will last longer." She visited it only 3 times before deciding the weather was unpleasant. Her army of 20,000 to 30,000 Marina soldiers regularly crushed rebellious provinces. Villages were destroyed, survivors enslaved, and atrocities were rampant. Children beheaded in front of parents, pregnant women disemboweled so soldiers could bet on the baby's sex, and men burned alive in their homes. Ranavalona's paranoia worsened with age. She ordered executions over the smallest suspicions. A bad dream could mean death for dozens. Tripping in her presence or even a long stare could be fatal. She believed cloud shapes were spells cast against her, forcing subjects to watch the skies and report anything strange, leading to the execution of dozens for collaborating with cloud sorcerers. She even banned the colour purple, leading people to burn purple clothes, feathers, and even flowers. Despite rejecting Western politics and religion, Ranavalona was fascinated by European culture, especially French. She kept a broken piano and forced courtiers to wear French clothes. She became obsessed with soap, learning its recipe from missionaries, banning Christianity, but maintaining public baths. She retained a handful of Europeans, mostly artisans, at her court. The most notable was Jean Laborde, a French engineer shipwrecked in 1832. Instead of executing him, she made him her industrial advisor. Under his guidance, factories for weapons, textiles, and ammunition were built. And yet, Ranavalona believed herself righteous. She claimed she was defending Malagasy tradition, preserving sovereignty in the face of European colonialism. But the cost was staggering. Entire villages were burned. Suspected traitors were impaled, boiled alive, or thrown from cliffs. Labourers were worked to death on her mad construction projects. Foreigners described her court as a place of constant executions, blood-soaked rituals, and paranoid purges. Even her own subjects began to call her Ranavalona the Cruel, and still she ruled on. In her final years, Ranavalona's cruelty peaked. Servants were executed for trivial mistakes. A dropped tray meant being thrown off a cliff. An unpopular lady-in-waiting might be buried alive. She reportedly enjoyed banquets during executions, commenting on victims' endurance. She invented death races, where condemned prisoners ran across fields while soldiers chased them with spears. If they reached a line, they lived, but few ever did. Courtiers lived in constant fear. Some slept with dirt pouches to swallow and die quickly if summoned. Others hid poison in rings. She developed a morbid obsession with death. Once she ordered a rhinoceros hunt, even though none lived in Madagascar. When told, she had the messengers executed and sent hunters anyway. Hundreds died searching for an imaginary beast. Her madness reached new heights when she ordered corpses exhumed and forced to work. Soldiers tied decomposing bodies to posts to simulate labor. The stench poisoned entire villages. Despite the horror, Ranavalona was a skilled political survivor. She played the great powers, France and Britain, against each other, maintaining Madagascar's independence while keeping foreign ambitions at bay. But she did so at the cost of her people's lives and their souls. By the time she died peacefully in her bed in 1861, over 100,000 people may have perished during her reign. Some say the number was even higher. She ruled for 33 years, unchallenged, unrepentant, unforgiving. To some historians, Queen Ranavalona was a woman who defied colonialism, who protected her culture from the vultures of empire. But to most, she is remembered as one of the most murderous monarchs in recorded history. A queen whose obsession with power soaked the soil of Madagascar with the blood of her own people.